Hey everybody, before the episode gets started, I just wanted to correct one of my statements. I originally stated in the episode that SummerSlam was taking place from Brooklyn, New York, and I am completely wrong. That must be next year's SummerSlam. So this year's SummerSlam is taking place from the Allegiant Stadium in Paradise, Nevada in Las Vegas. So it is not Brooklyn. That was my mistake. I apologize, and thank you for listening, and enjoy the show. You're listening to the Touch 'em Up podcast. I'm your host, Double M, and on today's episode, we have WWE SummerSlam 2021 and NXT TakeOver 36 preview, predictions, and analysis. Live on the podcast, the biggest match of the weekend for the Universal Championship on the Smackdown brand. You've got the Tribal Chief, the reigning, defending head of the table, Roman Reigns, defending his title against the 16-time world champion, the king of hustle, loyalty, and respect, the returning John Cena from West Newbury, Massachusetts, going for his record-breaking 17th title win against the current face of the company, as we said, the Tribal Chief, Roman Reigns. Then over on the NXT Black and Gold brand on Sunday night, the main event between the returning Samoa Joe going after the title that he held on multiple occasions, the NXT World Championship, against the current reigning, defending, dominant champion, Karrion Kross. So without any further ado, let's get this started and step into the ring. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining me today, and I'm excited to get into this dual prediction podcast where we cover SummerSlam for the first time ever on a Saturday night. Normally, all these pay-per-views are on Sunday. Normally, NXT opens up the weekend for SummerSlam. It will be on a Saturday, and then Sunday night would be your main roster, SummerSlam extravaganza, the biggest party of the summer. But this year, it's a little bit different. SummerSlam, I believe, is coming out of Brooklyn, New York, and it is going to be happening on a Saturday. So NXT, the Black and Gold brand, has a chance to close out the weekend for the WWE, and I'm really, really excited to see where they go with, just these storylines. Obviously, like we said, the biggest match of the weekend, Roman Reigns, John Cena, Universal Championship match, Paul Heyman in the corner of Roman Reigns, John Cena returning to the WWE to go for his 17th world title and break Ric Flair's record. There's history on the line, there's tension, there's bad blood, there's storytelling. This match has just about everything, and it's been built up in a very short time, and it's going to rock the house on Saturday in Brooklyn, and I can't wait for it. That's my most look forward to match on the entire card of SummerSlam, aside from another match which has storytelling and, has past interaction involved in it, which is the Grudge match between the Rated R superstar Edge and the Friday Night Messiah, formerly Monday Night Messiah, in Seth Rollins. And this is going to be a great match as well. And there's some other good matches on here, some that should have had a little bit more build, but didn't really get that build, in the lead up to this show. So I'm really excited to get into it. And I think instead of just sitting here and beating around the bush, it's time to dive in, get into the ring, and get this thing started. So we're going to start off on the SummerSlam card with the triple threat match for the Raw Women's Championship. You have the champion who won the title successfully after cashing in her briefcase on Charlotte Flair. That is Nikki Ash, A-S-H. Nikki, a superhero, defending her Raw Women's Championship against the former multiple-time champion Charlotte Flair and the other former champion who was in a feud with Charlotte Flair, who came up from NXT, that is Rhea Ripley. I'm going to be completely honest. I have about 1% of my excitement invested into this match. And that's not to discredit Nikki Ash. That's not to discredit formerly Nikki Cross. You know who that is if you're a professional wrestling fan. That is not to discredit Rhea Ripley. That's not to discredit Charlotte Flair. It's just I don't have a lot of, and Nikki Ash is a joke of a champion, and she was the worst pick in that the women's Money in the Bank match to give the briefcase to. Because no matter what you did with her with that briefcase, unless she lost it to somebody more credible to hold that briefcase and get a title shot, it really just doesn't mean anything. There's nothing that could have gone on in that match, or there's no program you could build up with Nikki Ash unless she goes back to Nikki Cross, which I could see it if, a feud is to continue with Alexa Bliss, since she really doesn't have anything going on for her right now. I could see it. It's just I don't really know where that's going to go. I just don't see anywhere Nikki Ash can go in terms of exciting, compelling storytelling with this title. And, she loses on Raw, then she beats, Charlotte and Rhea after they were already in matches earlier on in the night. And then, she gets pinned by Charlotte Flair. I don't know exactly because I haven't kept up with Raw every single week. Obviously, it's a struggle to get through Monday Night Raw every single week. And, SmackDown's a little bit easier to watch. But, overall, I'm going to go with Charlotte here to regain the title. Do I want her to win the belt? Do I want her to have the title again? No, absolutely not. But I don't see Rhea getting the belt here. I think that when she had the title, she did good. She had some good matches. I love Rhea Ripley. She's one of my favorite women's wrestlers on the entire roster. But I just feel like once she won that Raw Women's title, she got kind of stale, and the programming and the storytelling, it was just constantly, the same type of thing, the same song and dance. And I know that the company and Vince McMahon especially has a lot of faith in Charlotte Flair to get that belt and add some more prestige to it. Do I think she should have as many world title reigns as she does, as many women's title reigns as she does? No, absolutely not. Do I think that she is handed a lot of things? Yes, I do. Do I think she has been champion way too many times? Absolutely. Do I think that she wins and then loses and then wins the belt back right away? Absolutely. And I kind of could see this happening where Charlotte wins the belt, drops it to somebody on that Raw roster in a few weeks, and then gets it back at the next pay-per-view. That's kind of a series of events that they like to do with Charlotte Flair. But my overall pick for this match, like I said, I'm not really invested in it at all. I'm going to go with Charlotte Flair to win and become the new Raw Women's Champion. I could see Nikki getting a screwy finish victory, or maybe like Rhea hits the Riptide and then she throws Rhea out of the ring and gets the 1-2-3. But I just kind of think they did that whole women's Money in the Bank briefcase and Nikki winning the title at Money in the Bank, or on Raw, I'm sorry. I think they did that whole thing just to for shock value, or just to get one over on the fans. And I think that down the line, that there really wasn't any thought behind her winning the briefcase, which has been the problem with the Money in the Bank on the men's and women's side for a long time. So I definitely think that Charlotte Flair wins this match and becomes the new Raw Women's Champion. So I'm going with Charlotte Flair to get the victory here. Up next on the card, we have a grudge match, so to speak, which hasn't had a ton of build. It's a match between former 3MB members, the former WWE, two former world champions, actually. You've got Drew McIntyre going up against the modern-day Maharaja in Jinder Mahal. I like this match. I don't see anything wrong with it. It's kind of been a battle of the real-life iteration of the WWE Slam cycle with Jinder Mahal and his motorcycle versus the sword of Drew McIntyre that he carries out with the entrances, and they kind of went back and forth with each other, and then Jinder screwed McIntyre out of winning that Money in the Bank briefcase, and it's just kind of gone on from there. I think a lot of people are going to be siding with McIntyre here just because he's a former world champion, just because he's been invested in so much more recently in the WWE and so much more by the powers that be than Jinder Mahal. But to be honest, I think this feud is going to carry on a little bit longer. And if you want the feud to carry on longer, you have Jinder Mahal get the win here. I think Jinder beating McIntyre, his former teammate, the whole thing could have been could have gone on a lot longer. There could have been more story here with, when Jinder was the champion, he helped get McIntyre back into the WWE and said, hey, like, you're my friend. Hey, like, we need to get him back here. He's doing some great work. And then once he got back there and Jinder ended up losing that WWE championship to AJ Styles, everything with Jinder just kind of fell apart. He got injured. He wasn't seen for a long time. And McIntyre became the new poster boy for the WWE, NXT champion, WWE champion, Royal Rumble winner. I mean, it just kind of spiraled and balled up to where McIntyre is like one of the number one guys in the company. And Mahal is just kind of left off in the shadows after being a WWE champion back in 2017. And, I'm not going to say his reign was great, but for a heel, it did what it had to do. And I think when you look back on that Jinder Mahal title reign, were the matches good? No. But overall, I think his title reign, I think it did what it had to do. I think it was decent. And I think Mahal played a good heel character when he had that title, and it made people hate him, which is something that a lot of heels have trouble doing in the WWE and in professional wrestling nowadays because of kayfabe and, dirt sheets and everything. It's a little bit harder because the forbidden door is, kind of opened up for all the fans to see now. But I think that this feud needs to carry on. And I think if McIntyre beats Mahal here, it doesn't really do anything in terms of this feud, and it doesn't really do anything to build up McIntyre. So I think Mahal gets the job done here, probably off a distraction from his henchmen. I can't think of their name. Hold on, let me look that up. Hold on. Do they have it on here? Veer and Shanky. Yeah, here we go. Veer and Shanky. Those are his goons, his leaders, kind of like what the Singh brothers were when Jinder was the world champion, but these guys are a little bit more intimidating. The Singh brothers obviously did what they had to do when Jinder was the champion, but I think that there's a little distraction done there from Veer and Singh. And let me make sure this is working correctly. I think there's a little bit of a distraction. Mahal hits the Colossus, hits the 1, 2, 3, and then they carry it on to the next pay-per-view, which I believe is Extreme Rules, and probably do another match between the two. I think it could be a Punjabi prison match. We've seen them bring that back for Jinder when he was the champion. I think that the Punjabi prison match wouldn't be a bad idea to bring back for Mahal and McIntyre in the final match. And then obviously McIntyre can get the win there, or Jinder can get the win, and then maybe they thrust Jinder back into the world title picture. I think that would be a little bit of a breath of fresh air. Do I necessarily want to see Mahal win the WWE title again or the Universal Championship? No, I don't. But I think Mahal back in that main event picture isn't a terrible idea right now, and maybe it'll add a little bit to Monday Night Raw. So I'm going to go with Jinder Mahal here to get the surprise victory over Drew McIntyre. All right, up next for the United States Championship, you have the champion Sheamus defending the belt against the very impressive, Damian Priest, who came up from NXT to Monday Night Raw after the Royal Rumble and had a very, very solid showing so far. I don't believe he's lost on the main roster yet, and I expect that streak to continue here. I think that Damian Priest wins this belt, takes the United States title off of Sheamus. I think Sheamus has had a good run with this United States Championship since he beat Riddle for it. I think he's had some good matches. He's had some good open challenge matches, but I think that the powers that be have a lot of faith in Damian Priest as a future world champion, as a future main eventer. And I think that starts off with him getting this red, white, and blue strap in the United States Championship. So I think he beats Sheamus here, carries the U.S. title for a few months, has a few feuds with it. And then I think they build him up closer and closer to that main event picture. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take a little bit, but I do see a bright future ahead for Damian Priest, the Archer of Infamy. So I'm going to go with Damian Priest here to beat Sheamus. Like I said, I think Sheamus has done good with this U.S. title. He's had some good matches with Riddle. I believe he had a good match with Ricochet. He's had a few matches with him for the U.S. title. But I just think that he might move on to bigger and better things. He might move on to a program outside of the U.S. title picture. And I'm picking Damian Priest here to become your new United States champion. So Priest to walk out as the new United States champion. All right, up next for the SmackDown Women's Championship, you have Bianca Belair defending the SmackDown Women's title against the boss, Sasha Banks. If it's anything like what their match was at WrestleMania, I think we're in for a treat. These girls can put on a hell of a match. Bianca Belair is extremely athletic. She's extremely powerful. She's so good in the ring. She's good on the mic. She's got the look. She's got the charisma. Bianca Belair is pretty much the whole package in terms of, the new era of the WWE women's superstar, a new era of the women's champion. Sasha Banks is back going after the title that she lost to Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. And I don't really know what's going to be next for Bianca Belair. I think that there's not too many women she could feud with on SmackDown. I know that Toni Storm made her main roster debut over on SmackDown, so there's a possibility that maybe Toni Storm gets a crack at the title eventually. Shotzi Blackheart was over on Friday Night SmackDown recently after she came up from NXT. There is a possibility that she could get a shot at the championship, but I don't think so. I think they kind of want to carry on this feud. Do I think it's necessary to carry on this Belair and Banks feud for a lot longer? No, because the longer you carry on a feud between these two, the more stale it's going to get, and the more the fans are going to kind of, reject it the longer it goes. I think that they're going to put on a phenomenal match. I don't think you expect anything different from, women superstars with the talent of, Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. But overall, I think that Banks gets the title off Belair here. Maybe Belair gets it back in a few months. Maybe Belair gets moved over to Monday Night Raw during the upcoming draft, which I believe takes place at the end of September, or it's either the end of August or the end of September. It's coming up very soon. I think we could see Bianca Belair move over to Raw in that shakeup, and I think that this starts off here. Do I think Belair should lose the belt? I'm not against it, just because I think that, whether Banks or Belair hold the SmackDown Women's title, it's still going to be good for that women's division. But Belair's had the belt since WrestleMania. That's about a 4-month title reign. I think that that's a good length for Bianca Belair's title reign. I don't think she's going to have it for much longer. If she was to beat Sasha Banks, I would expect her to drop it within the next 2 months. But I think that they have faith in Sasha Banks to carry that belt. She always puts on good matches. She can cut a good promo, as can Bianca Belair. But I think that Belair drops the belt here to Sasha Banks, and they try to run some new programs. Probably a rematch at Extreme Rules between Belair and Sasha Banks. And then maybe Belair can go over there, or, maybe they'll flip-flop the title a little bit. I would venture to say that's not a good idea, just because you saw what happened with Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks, hot potatoing with the Raw Women's title back in 2016, 2017. So I think Sasha Banks gets the belt here. I think that if not, like I said, I think Belair loses it quite soon. She's done really good as a SmackDown Women's Champion. She's good in the ring. She's one of the most athletic women on the entire roster, but I think that they give the belt to Banks here. So Sasha Banks to win and become the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Up next, we've got a match for the SmackDown Tag Team Championships between Jimmy and Jay, the Usos, versus the Mysterios, the pairing of Rey and Dominic Mysterio for the SmackDown Tag Team titles. This is a tough match to pick. Ever since the Usos realigned with, Roman Reigns, and, they've got the bloodline, the head of the table with Paul Heyman, I don't necessarily see the Usos dropping the belt anytime soon. I think once Roman loses the Universal Championship, I could see the Usos dropping the titles, or the Usos could drop the titles before Roman loses, and it could add to some dissension between Roman and the Usos, and then they can maybe carry on that feud that it was either Jay or Jimmy and Roman had with the matches that they had. They both faced Roman at different points, but maybe that they turn on each other. But I think this carries on for a long time. I think the bloodline is here to stay. I think that Dominic and Rey Mysterio as the SmackDown Tag Team Champions is not a bad idea at all. I would not be against it if they were to win the titles here. But I just think that it's a little bit too early and premature to take the SmackDown Tag Team titles off of Jimmy and Jay. Just with the way that Roman's going on SmackDown, the storyline with John Cena that's built in, I don't expect them to lose here. So I'm going to go with the Usos to retain and carry the belts for longer. I just think that the whole program with Roman and Paul Heyman and the bloodline is too strong to cut down here and have them lose the titles and lose some momentum. I do think that Roman loses his title soon. We'll talk about that, obviously, when we get to the main event of the evening. But overall, for the pick here, I'm going with the Usos to beat the Mysterios and retain the SmackDown Tag Team titles. Up next, we have a match that I'm really, really looking forward to. The Grudge match between Edge and Seth Rollins. Years in the making. The Rated R Superstar versus the Friday Night Messiah. It's been a match that fans have been waiting for ever since Edge made his return. I mean, you had that whole program and story back when Edge showed up with his short hair when he wasn't an in-ring competitor. He wasn't active. He was still retired after the neck injury. And obviously Seth Rollins was with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. And, you know, he was the Money in the Bank holder, I believe, at the time. And Edge and Christian were on Raw. And then I believe, if I remember correctly, they were holding down Edge, and Rollins was going to curb stomp him. And, you know, obviously I believe Christian made the save. If it wasn't Christian, somebody jumped in and made the save so Edge didn't get curb stomped, but they held him there, and it was just a whole big storyline when Rollins had that gimmick going on in 2015 where he was aligned with Triple H and Stephanie and Orton and, I can't remember what the name of the character was. Let me see. What did they call that? Hold on. Hold on. What was the name of this character? He was just like he was obviously the heel. He was like the chosen one. That was it. He was like Triple H's chosen one. That was after he turned on the Shield, turned on Roman, turned on Seth, or turned on Roman and Dean, and then he aligned with Triple H, and it goes back to that and how Edge can finally get his revenge on Seth Rollins. But currently, this whole feud kind of sparked after Rollins cost Edge his match against Roman Reigns at Money in the Bank for the Universal title. He led to the distraction, and then Roman hit the spear, hit the 1, 2, 3. I believe he hit the spear and got the pin. And, Roman Reigns retained the Universal Championship when Edge almost had him beat. He had him beat, and Seth screwed Edge out of winning that title. So now they're back to Edge and Seth Rollins, which this is going to be one of your matches of the night. This is one of the matches I'm looking forward to the most. This is a match that has a lot of build. They've gone back and forth on SmackDown, here and there, with Edge calling Seth Rollins like the Edge wannabe. And, he's like a ripoff Edge. That's what Edge said about Seth. He's a lower class version of Edge himself. And, Rollins wanting to take everything that Edge has worked for and get one over on him and prove that he's better and that he should have been the challenger for the Universal Championship. And Edge shouldn't have came in off that injury. And after he already had his match at WrestleMania in the Triple Threat, he shouldn't have gotten another match. It should have been Seth's spot. It should have been him versus Roman for the Universal title, but he's getting screwed out of everything. So he wants to make a statement and prove that he is better than the Rated R Superstar. And the storytelling, the long-term storytelling, the bad blood behind this match, it just has everything. And to have it go down at the biggest party of the summer is just perfect. When picking a winner between Edge and Seth Rollins for this match, it's very, very difficult. I think it could go either way. I think if Seth Rollins were to get a big victory over on Edge It could do wonders for his career, but I also believe that if Seth Rollins loses to Edge, I don't necessarily think he loses a ton of momentum. I don't necessarily think that it knocks him all the way down the card. I don't think that, because Edge, he lost to Roman because Seth screwed him out of it, but Edge won the Rumble. Seth is the master of reinventing his character. He's the master of, making the best out of a shitty situation. Even if he's not in the main event, he can make himself feel like the main event. And, I think that with this match, when it comes to picking a winner, it could really go either way. I could see Rollins beating Edge. I could see Edge pinning Rollins. I think Edge needs the victory here more than Seth Rollins does, just because of when he came back, win the Rumble, lose at WrestleMania, lose to Roman because you got screwed out of the win. Eventually, Edge is going to get that world title win. He's going to win back the belt that the title that he got taken away from him with his injury back in 2011. And I don't think that Rollins losing here is a terrible thing for his character, because he can make the best out of the worst sometimes, and he can just carry on with his character work from here on out. So I'm going to go with Edge. I think Edge defeats Seth Rollins here. I don't necessarily see any outside interference, so to speak. So I think that if I was going to book the end of the match, I think Edge goes for a spear. Rollins counters it with a super kick, a kick to the gut. Edge is down on one knee. He goes off the ropes, goes for the curb stomp. Edge moves out of the way, bounces off the ropes, hits a spear, goes into the corner, wakes up Seth Rollins, goes for another spear. Rollins hits him with a super kick again, hits him with another super kick, hits him with another super kick, runs off the rope, boom, gets speared, 1, 2, 3. Edge gets his big win, back with fans. We have fans back. This will be his first victory with the fans back in attendance on a huge pay-per-view, beating a guy like Seth Rollins in a match that fans have wanted to see ever since that whole story arc back in 2015. I think that this is perfect. I think this is the biggest match on the show, besides, obviously, the Universal Championship match that we're going to talk about in a minute. But Edge goes over here. It does way more things for him than it does for Rollins, even though this win would be huge for Seth. Edge needs it more at the current point. So Edge goes over on Seth Rollins here in this grudge match. And then up next, we've got the match for the WWE Championship. You have the champion, Bobby Lashley, defending against the returning legend, the master of the spear and the jackhammer, Bill Goldberg. I don't know why this match is taking place. I'm pretty sure that it's only because they couldn't get Brock for SummerSlam. I think that Brock will come back at a certain point, and I think that this was a match done to just kind of hold off on the eventual Bobby Lashley versus Lesnar match. However, I do think that it's a little bit weird that they couldn't get Brock here, but I do think that this whole Goldberg and Bobby Lashley match is just being used to build up to an eventual Bobby Lashley versus Brock Lesnar match. Think about it for a second. Goldberg came back at Survivor Series and beat Lesnar in a squash match. Then they wrestle again at WrestleMania after Lesnar wins the Universal title. And, Goldberg won the Universal title, and then Lesnar challenged Goldberg for the belt at Mania 34. Was it 33 or 34? WrestleMania 33. He challenged him at 33. He beat him. I think that this whole Bobby Lashley and Goldberg match is just being used to elevate Bobby Lashley's character, elevate his dominance, elevate his character status as the almighty Bobby Lashley, and use that to go into a story with Brock Lesnar when he eventually does come back. That is what's being done here. I will go on a limb and say that. So I think what happens, I think a lot of people are nervous. They think that Goldberg's going to take the belt off Lashley. And to be honest, I don't blame you. I don't blame anybody for getting worried about that, because we've thought that Goldberg was never going to win another championship again, and then he beats Kevin Owens. We thought that he was never, ever going to beat The Fiend in Saudi Arabia, and he beats The Fiend. We thought maybe he was going to beat Drew McIntyre at the Royal Rumble, and everybody got worried about it, saying that Goldberg only comes back to win the title, but it didn't happen, luckily, for Drew. Drew did beat Goldberg at the Royal Rumble this year. And with this match, I think that Bobby Lashley beating a guy like Bill Goldberg does a hell of a lot more for him than Goldberg beating Lashley. Goldberg doesn't need to build himself up anymore. Goldberg doesn't need any huge victories. Goldberg doesn't need another world title. He's Bill Goldberg. It's fucking Goldberg. Like, he doesn't need that. And I think that that's kind of what's going on here. I think that there's a lot of people who are probably going to pick Goldberg just because they're worried. Because every time you pick against Goldberg, he ends up coming out on top. Kind of like the Charlotte Flair thing, but it's obviously not in the same category. I think Bobby Lashley wins this match. I think it's a dominant victory from him. A lot of matches with Goldberg, he'll get a few moves in, and then he'll have a little scare, and then Drew will beat him, or they'll have a little bit of a match, and oh my God, Goldberg's going to win, and then he loses or he wins. It's back and forth, and Goldberg always gets his moves in. This is a match where I don't think Goldberg gets nearly any offense in. I think Goldberg tries to start the match out and go for a spear. I think Bobby Lashley counters it with like a running knee or an uppercut or a forearm shiver or a boot to the head. I think he grapples him, wrestles him, uses the front headlock, uses the full Nelson that he uses to use the hurt lock. I think he catches him coming in, stuns him with a knee, runs off the ropes, hits him with a spear, and then puts him in the hurt lock. I think Goldberg gets out of it. He runs off the ropes, goes for a spear. I think Lashley counters his spear with his own spear, locks in the hurt lock, and beats Goldberg in dominant fashion. I think this match is used to build to a Goldberg or to a Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley match, which is something fans have wanted for years. Lashley has never looked more dominant in the WWE than he does right now. I don't think it's the right time to take the WWE title off of Lashley. I think Lashley beats Goldberg here. It leads to Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. And then whoever wins that match, I don't know. More than likely, I think they'd probably give it to Brock there, just because him in a feud for the title is big business. It brings eyes to the product that WWE may be looking for after this recent purge of NXT talent. So be on the lookout for that. But I definitely do think that Bobby Lashley defeats Goldberg here and retains the WWE Championship. I think it's quick. I think it doesn't go more than 5 minutes. Maybe it goes 5 to 7 minutes. I mean, I don't expect it to go much longer than that. If it does, I'll be surprised. But look for a dominant victory from the Almighty here and retaining his strap as the WWE Champion over Bill Goldberg. All right, and then finally, for the main event of SummerSlam, you've got a match that fans have gotten before, but not in this circumstance. You've got the head of the table, the tribal chief, aligned with Paul Heyman, aligned with the Usos in the bloodline. You've got the reigning, defending Universal Champion Roman Reigns defending the title against the 16-time World Champion, the poster boy of the WWE, which Roman Reigns is trying to become. One of the biggest stars in wrestling history, the master of the 5-knuckle shuffle and the attitude adjustment. From West Newbury, Massachusetts, you have John Cena versus Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. What a match. What a story. I am extremely, extremely pumped to see this match go down on Saturday night. Don't forget, Saturday, not Sunday like normal. Saturday night for SummerSlam this year. I am very, very excited for this match. I cannot wait for it to go down. We've seen that Roman and Cena have chemistry in the ring back at No Mercy 2017 when they had their match for the first time. First time we got Roman Reigns versus John Cena was No Mercy 2017 in a Raw exclusive pay-per-view. It was a great match. Roman Reigns went over. Now Roman Reigns is this heel, this cold-blooded, cheating, lying, just smug prick of a heel as the head of the table, the face of SmackDown, the tribal chief, aligned with the Usos, aligned with his mouthpiece, Paul Heyman, which has done wonders for his career and made this the best work of Roman Reigns' career by a long shot. He's been dominant as the Universal Champion since he won it back at Payback of 2020, I believe. I believe it was Payback 2020. He's still going strong over a year as the champion. And he's going up against his toughest challenge. He's beaten the likes of Cesaro. He's beaten Edge. He's beaten Daniel Bryan. He's beaten... I don't know. I mean, he's beaten a ton of guys on that SmackDown roster and retained his Universal title. Originally, at SummerSlam, it was supposed to be Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor. Balor was going to challenge Roman for the title on SmackDown. They were going to have a contract signing on SmackDown. Finn Balor got taken out by the damsel in distress, which is, Baron Corbin right now. He gets taken out by Corbin and, gets taken out. And, Cena comes in, signs the contract. After he debuted at the end of Money in the Bank, he shows up to a monstrous pop, one of the biggest pops from a WWE crowd in WWE history. He comes in, signs the contract, and now we've got Cena versus Roman Reigns. And last Friday on SmackDown, they had a war of words, and it was great. It built up to the bad blood. And, how Roman said, "You're not around anymore, John. I am the new face of the company. I am the new head of the table. You're old news. You're nothing. You're a has-been." And, Cena saying, you wouldn't be anywhere like where you're at if it wasn't for guys like me. And the only reason WWE calls me back is because they need help, because it took them multiple years and multiple championship runs and multiple character changes and multiple feuds to get you to where they want you to be, and you still can't get the job done after being WWE's hand-picked boy to be the face of the company. They have to call back the real face of the company. They have to call back the legend. They have to call back the 16-time champion, John Cena. Because, Roman, you can't get the job done. You can't get things done on your own. People aren't invested in you. They do not like you as a character. They do not believe in you, and they do not believe in you as being a successful champion. And they call me back because you're not as successful as they need you to be. So they need my star power to carry you to where they want you to be, which is the top of the mountain. I've already been there, and I'm looking to get back and become the first ever 17-time Universal Champion and break Ric Flair's record. You can land all your DC superhero punches. You can land your spears. You can land your ooh-ahs. All I need is one, two, three. You can beat my ass. You can run me to the ground. You can beat me. All I need is 1, 2, 3. You can run your mouth. You can, use your power, use your strength, use your spears, use whatever you got in your arsenal and your power. But all I need is 1, 2, 3. That was kind of how it went down on SmackDown. And Roman went back at Cena. They had just watch the promo if you haven't seen it. It's about a 10-minute promo from SmackDown last week between John Cena and Roman Reigns, really just amping up this match and building it up to be one of the biggest matches in WWE history. And that's exactly what this is. John Cena versus Roman Reigns. And here's the truth. I could see Cena beating Roman Reigns here. I could see it. I could see them doing it for shock value. I could see them doing that for the fans. I could see them doing that to be like, oh my God, Cena broke the record. He became the 17-time champion. He could win the belt here, drop it later on. If he does win the Universal title, he cannot drop it right away. You cannot do that. If he wins, you cannot have him drop the title right away. He has to drop it in a month, in 2 months, in 3 months. He has to come back for a little while before he can drop the title. I could see it happening, but I do think that Roman Reigns is going to retain the belt here. I think we're going to get a great match. I think it's going to go 20 to 25 minutes. I think you're going to get a lot of trash talking from Roman Reigns being like, I'm the champ. I'm the head of the table. I'm the man. You're not. You are an old has-been. I'm the new king in town. I'm the new face of the company. Get out of here. Go back to Hollywood. I think we're going to get a lot of trash talk, a lot of back and forth, a lot of intense moments. I could see a Superman punch getting countered into an AA. I could see an AA getting countered. Roman, raking the eyes of Cena, bouncing off the ropes, hitting a spear, hitting a Superman punch. I could see a lot of counters. I think a lot of near falls, a lot of back and forth is going to go on here. But Overall, I think Roman Reigns goes over here and retains the Universal Championship. I think that Cena winning here would not be a bad idea. I don't disagree with it. I think getting him to the 17-time champion, it would add to shock value for SummerSlam. It would be like a holy shit moment if Cena actually beats Roman Reigns and becomes the first ever 17-time champion. But overall, I do think that Roman Reigns wins here, and I'll tell you why. I think Roman wins here. I think we see Cena go back to Hollywood for a little bit longer, and I think that the man who was supposed to get his title match here gets his match down the line at Extreme Rules or on Smackdown, or either way, I think we get the match down the line between the Prince, Finn Balor, and the Universal Champion, the head of the table, Roman Reigns. And I think that him getting screwed out of this by Baron Corbin is obviously going to lead to a match probably on SummerSlam between Baron Corbin and Finn Balor. Balor will go over as the Prince. I think he's going to get pissed off. He's going to get angry. He's going to unleash some of that inner, heelish tactics, and he's going to go back to the real Prince that he was in NXT. And we're going to see a little bit more of a shit talking, a little bit more of a chip on his shoulder, Finn Balor. And I think that's going to lead to Balor versus Roman Reigns. And I think Roman Reigns loses the Universal title to the Prince, Finn Balor. He can get back the belt that he never really lost. He tried to get it back a few times. It didn't work out. He can finally get it back on SmackDown and conquer Roman Reigns, the guy who he beat in his first night on Monday Night Raw when he got drafted in 2016. He beat Roman Reigns, and he won a triple threat match to face Roman Reigns, who also won a triple threat match to go on to face Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2016 to win the Universal Championship. I think that they were building to that story, but they had to get Cena in here, so they were holding off on it for a little bit. But I think we do get Roman Reigns versus Finn Balor, and I think Balor's the man to take that strap off of Roman Reigns. I think Balor faces Roman at the next pay-per-view for the Universal title, and Balor becomes your new Universal Champion as the Prince and as the new face of SmackDown. I think that's what happens. I see it. I can see the writing on the wall. But overall, for this pay-per-view, Roman holds on to it for a little bit longer, carries on in the best work of his career, and beats John Cena 1-2-3 in the middle of the ring after a spear and retains the Universal Championship. I was going to do NXT TakeOver 36 predictions on this episode, but I think we're going to save that for another episode, probably recorded tomorrow or possibly later on tonight. But I hope you guys enjoyed my prediction and my preview for SummerSlam 2021. I think it is absolutely fantastic. I think the Seth Rollins versus Edge and the Roman Reigns versus John Cena match are going to make this SummerSlam one of the best that we've seen in a very, very long time. I think the addition of fans, I think this is just going to be a great, great pay-per-view for all the WWE fans. It's taking place on a Saturday, not the traditional Sunday, so do not forget that, taking place on Peacock. This Saturday, I believe August 21st, live on Peacock. So definitely get out and watch SummerSlam. And if you like this podcast, if you like the Touch 'Em Up podcast, give it a review on Apple Podcast. Follow it on Spotify. Follow it on any and all platforms, including Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and many, many more. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out. Have a good night, everybody. All right?